so there goes a sight, there goes a sight. Now there goes a sight from my soul. There goes a sight from my soul. There goes a sight, there goes a sight. There goes a sight from my soul. I think a fall angel just walked by. 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 There goes a sight from my soul. There goes a sight, there goes a sight. Now there goes a sight from my there goes a sight. There goes a sight, there goes a sight. Now there goes a sight from my soul. So.
Hey folks, hope you're all having a fantastic Wednesday. We're back in Spokane in the Flysimware Learjet 35 today, and we're going to fly this on Pilotedge to Bozeman, Montana, to Big Sky Country. So the aircraft here is all fueled up, passengers getting ready to board here. Let's hop in the flight deck and initiate our flight plan going from Spokane to Bozeman. Alright, let's go to the flight plan here. Let's add waypoint. Charlie's Aviation, welcome back. Let's put in Bozeman, Bravo Zulu November on the identifier there. That's helpful. And out of Phelps Field, we're going to take the Phelps 4 departure. Let's see what the winds are doing. Winds are favoring a departure on 22 right today, so we'll do 22 right. And let's go ahead and load that departure. Okay. Our first waypoint is going to be Coeur d'Alene. That's Charlie Oscar Echo, COE. Let's put that in here real quick. Alright, and then from Coeur d'Alene we're going on to Missoula. Insert after MSO Missoula. Then we're going on to, let's see, HIA, which is the Whitehall VOR, Hotel India Alpha. Let's go ahead and put that in. After Whitehall, we've got Hitek Pokhara from Nepal. Welcome on board. Hope you're doing well, Hitek. Thanks for hanging out with us. How are things going with you in Nepal? I think it's the first time I've had a viewer on channel from Nepal, at least. Somebody that's announced they're from Nepal, so that's pretty awesome. Welcome on board. I hope you're doing well in Nepal. And our final waypoint here is going to be Bozeman, VOR, BZN. Okay, we got all that in. Of course, we're going to have to once again initiate it on this side as well, because despite the fact that these two GTN 1050 units are right adjacent to each other here, in real life, I'm guessing, you know, these units would have a real connection, so you could transfer a flight plan information from one unit to the next, but for some reason, that is not something that is supported in the Flight 1 GTNs. So we're going to have to do this all over again, unfortunately. We go in runway 22 right there. Let's load that departure. And then we've got Coeur d'Alene after. That's Charlie Oscar Echo. Once again, after Charlie Oscar Echo, we've got Missoula. That's MSO, Missoula. After Missoula, we've got Whitehall, then Bozeman. So let's go through this relatively tedious process of putting all this in again. But hey, it is a hump day, so you can't complain. Anybody remember that old Geico commercial from way back in the day? From a few years ago? You know how it goes. Hey, Mike. Guess what day it is, right? It's hump day. Okay, flight plan information is in. Let's go to the map page there. So we're at Spokane Phelps Field again. Hitek, yes, I said hello already. All good here. I'm doing great, Hitek. Gregory Long, welcome back. And to all of you in chat who are not chiming in, welcome. I hope you're all doing fantastic today. Hope you're having a fantastic Wednesday and a fantastic weeknight thus far. Let me go ahead and hop onto Pilotedge here. I'm just going to file my flight plan, just file that off, and we're going to go ahead and sign on to Pilotedge here. So I'm just pulling up my Pilotedge client. It needs to scan my aircraft models once again. And let's put in our aircraft information here. I'm flying 354 Charlie Lima today. Learjet 35, identifier Lima Juliet 35, and let's go ahead and connect. Alright, connected to Pilotedge. What else do I want to do here? I wanted to very quickly kind of go through my checklist here. GPU is connected. We do have the GPU, the ground card there connected. Let's just make sure everything here is set up correctly. I've got bats 1 and 2 on, DC volts, we've got to confirm we've got 28 volts, we do have that. Primary inverters on, secondary inverters on, autopilot masters on, radio altimeters on, standby battery to standby, avionics masters on, yaw damper primary and secondary is on. Not yet, actually. Let's go ahead and get that on. Radar to standby, AC or heat as required. Standby gyro is uncaged. Auxiliary hydraulic pump, we've done that already. So parking brake is set, and we've done our initial power-up checklist. So that's all done there. Let's go ahead and tune in the frequency here for Spokane departure, 133.35. GNEA Airbus 330, welcome on board. Hope you're doing well. Good evening to you. Spokane is in eastern Washington. So the state of Washington is on the west coast of the United States, and the eastern end of the state of Washington has the city of Spokane. So, oops, I wanted to put in Spokane departure 133.35. Enter. And one last thing I wanted to do here was go ahead and get in my CTAF frequency 132.5. That's already in there. Fantastic. Okay, so all I need to do is call up Spokane departure. Oops, got that wrong. 133.35. So all I need to do here is contact Spokane departure to get our IFR clearance. And let me tune in guard here on standby. Actually, we'll just put in guard on COM 2, and we're going to monitor that. So we have that as well. So that's fantastic. Let's go ahead and pick up our IFR clearance here going from Spokane to Bozeman. Hirthik Pokrel, I don't have the Aerosoft A330, so I might do a few flights into Nepal, but I'm not the biggest, long-haul flyer in flight sim. So I don't know. It's a maybe. Let's call it a maybe for now. If I can find the right add-on that makes sense for me, then maybe. Okay, let's go ahead and call up Spokane departure here. Spokane departure, good evening. Lear-35 Charlie Lima on the ground at Phelps Field. Let me just make sure that I am properly connected here to Pilotedge. Yeah, it's 133.35.
35 Lima, Spokane, approach clear to Bozeman Airport as filed. Correction, Phelps for departure is in as filed. Maintain 12,000, correction, maintain 13,000. Expect flight level 370, 10 minutes after departure. Departure frequency 123.75 and squawk 2210. Hold for release.
Learjet 354 Charlie Lima is cleared at Bozeman via the Phelps for departure, then is filed. Climb maintain 13,000. Expect 370 minutes after departure 133.75 and squawk 2210 for Learjet 354 Charlie Lima.
So 354 Charlie Lima, read back correct, advise ready.
Full advise ready, holding for release 354 Charlie Lima. Just to confirm, that departure frequency, was that 123.75 or 133.75?
123.75.
12375, thank you much. Okay, so hold for release means that I'm going to switch to tower here. Hold for release means that we haven't been actually our IFR clearance is not officially been released for departure until we're got that approval from tower. So this is an untowered field for the purposes of this flight on Pilotedge. In real life, it's a towered field part-time. There's certain hours of the day that the tower actually operates, and then the rest of the time in real life, this operates as an untowered field with a common traffic advisory frequency. In Pilotedge, though, this is an untowered field all the time, I believe. So, essentially, at an untowered field, you can get your IFR clearance from the controlling facility that controls the airspace over this airport. And what happens is that at an uncontrolled field, ATC essentially can only allow one IFR aircraft to essentially, take ownership of that field. So they can only clear one aircraft either in or out of the field at any one point in time that is IFR. VFR aircraft, of course, there's no such limitation. So that's the reason we're holding for release. Once we're holding short of the runway, we'll call up departure again to let them know we're ready for release. Then they'll release us, and then we'll call them when we're airborne. So that's the plan. Let's go ahead and do our departure briefing here, and I'll catch up on chat here real quick. Christopher Smith, welcome aboard. Hope you're doing well. I do, Christopher. I've got I've got the PMDG NGX. I don't have the NGXU, but I do have the PMDG NGX from way back in the day, and that works just fine for me for now. When the new Microsoft Flight Simulator comes out, I'm quite likely going to get the NG3 from PMDG whenever that comes out. I'm just going to set my heading bug here to heading of 190. Whoops. Okay, let's set that real quick. Okay, that's set. Christopher Smith asks, what is the longest flight I've done? That's a great question. I'm not sure I remember, actually, Christopher Smith. I think I've done... I'm trying to remember. I think I've done a flight from... you know... Actually, I'm not sure, to be honest. I think I've done the long flight from, like, LA to Sydney or something like that, you know, in the sim. But that was a long time ago, when I had a lot more time to flight sim. These days, I tend to stick to short-haul routes and more GA-type flying just because it fits in better with my schedule and my time. So that's the type of flying I tend to do. And out of curiosity there, Christopher, since you were asking, what kind of flying or simming do you typically tend to do? And are you more of a long-haul type simmer or a short-haul type simmer? GNEA Airbus 330 asks, do I have FS2 crew for the Learjet 35? No, I do not. They're Airbus. So I've got, there's no good add-on. Like, there's no good FS2 crew add-on yet for the Learjet 35, unfortunately. So this is actually supposed to be a two-person flight crew in real life. The Learjet 35 is not certified for single engine or single pilot ops IFR. So in real life, there's a two-person flight crew, but as of yet, there's no Learjet 35 add-on from FS2 crew. But maybe that's something some folks should recommend to fly to FS2 crew, and hopefully they do develop something. Okay, let's go ahead and do our departure briefing here, and we'll get going shortly. Let me close my PFPX window off there. And let's do our departure briefing. Okay, so here's our departure brief. We're at Spokane Felsfield Airport. Winds are out of the south at the moment, 1906 knots. Visibility greater than 10 statute miles. Few clouds 9,500. Ceilings overcast at 10,000. Temperature 182.07. Altimeter is 2979er. And we're located at... let me just get rid of a couple of windows here that I don't need anymore. Okay, and we're located at the terminal building here. Let's pull up our taxi route here real quick, and we'll talk through this. Just want to switch to the desktop capture scene there. There we go. Okay, so we're here at the terminal building, and we're going to taxi to hold short of 22 right via Alpha, Delta, Bravo, Alpha again. We'll cross 22 left and hold short of 22 right for departure. During the departure, any malfunctions before V1, such as engine failure, fire, loss of control, aircraft unsafe to fly, I'm going to call stop. We'll reject the takeoff, brake, exit off the runway if able, and advise ATC of the issue. Any malfunctions after V1, we're going to continue the takeoff and deal with the emergency in the air. I'm going to call ATC and let them know the problem, and you back me up with the QRH procedures and checklists. Pending that, we're going to be departing via the Phelps for departure. Off of runway 22 right today. Procedures to climb. Do a climbing left turn on a heading of 190 up to 5,500 feet. Our initial cleared altitude is 13,000, so we're going to climb up to 13,000 after. And we're going to expect radar vectors to our assigned airway or route. We're going to proceed to the Coeur d'Alene VOR today. And we'll maintain 13,000 or assigned lower altitude. And expect followed altitude flight level 20 minutes after departure. Let's see, this does require takeoff minimums. Standard for runway 22 left, 22 right, minimum climb of 370 feet per nautical mile to 5,500 feet. Awesome. Okay, so we got all that in. Special considerations, we do have terrain to the east of the airport here, obviously, so that's the reason we're going to climb on this 190 heading until we get to a sufficient altitude, at which point we can turn back towards Coeur d'Alene VOR and proceed on course, as directed by ATC. But that's really it. That's our departure briefing today. Any questions? No questions, because even though it's supposed to be a two-person flight crew, I'm the only person on the flight deck. But in case you find folks on stream have any questions, feel free to shoot away. Lokestar, welcome on board. Hope you're doing well. nice to see you again. Chase, good to see you as well. Hope you're doing well. And Christopher Smith, wait, I caught you earlier tonight. Castillos, welcome on board. Hope you're doing well. Castillos, yes indeed. We're doing another very late night. Actually, you know, it's not too bad for me. It's like a you know, late evening stream Pacific time. But we're just I tend to do these. Not very often, kind of rarely. I tend to do these very, very sort of impromptu late night streams on my channel when I'm doing some weeknight streams. So I figured, you know, I was planning on flying the Learjet 35 on Pilotedge tonight anyway, and I figured as opposed to just doing it by myself, why not hop onto Pilotedge and hop onto hit the Go Live button on my YouTube channel and share it with you fine folks. So that way you get to share in all the aviation flight simming misadventures that we're going to have en route to Big Sky Country, Bozeman, Montana today. Okay, so we've done our departure brief. We've set our bugs here. I'm going to set my course as well to 190 initially, just so we have that. Let's set that course bug as well to 190. Okay, let's go ahead and hop in back here, and we'll close our door. Let's get that door closed. Once again, in the Flysimware Lear-35, this is so beautifully modeled, this door, that it's an event just closing it. Okay, we'll latch the lower door there, then we're going to click on this little motor here, and seal the door. Hear the motor working there, doing its magic. Let's go ahead and latch the upper door, and then we'll release the hook. That way, once again, in event of an emergency, we can just pop that open in a hurry. Okay, and the door light has disappeared up here. That's great. And let's go ahead and set our trim here for takeoff, just in case. Let's make sure our jet pumps are on there. That's kind of critical. And I think we're all good there. Let's check on our load sheet here, just make sure we got everything. I just want to make sure I set my fuel correctly there. I just wanted a, yeah, that amount of fuel looks good. Light loading of fuel today. Okay, fantastic. And lastly, what else did I want to do here? I've set my pressurization bug there for 37,000 feet. That's going to be our cruising flight level today. And that's it. Let's go ahead and do our start check here. Fuel quantity, balance counters checked and 0. Thrust levers to cutoff. Let's make sure they're in cutoff by right-clicking on them. There we go. Fuel computers are on. Beacon coming on. There we go. Batteries on, min 24 volts. Whoops. 1 second here. On, min, and 24 volts. We got that. All right. Inverters are on. They are. Aux heat is off. Air conditioning off. Cabin door closed. The light is out. Belts and harnesses on both sides. Parking brake is set. Hydraulic pump is off. Cell phones checked. Kona coffee checked. We've actually got Kona coffee tonight on stream. And start check is completed. So we're ready to start up engines. The GPU is connected, providing some ground power here for the start. And let me catch up on chat here real quick. Lokestar was saying... Actually, wait 1 second. Castillos, yes, we'll certainly do some 737 flights on stream at some point. I've got some ideas for some flights in the PMDG NGX at some point in the near future. Lokestar says, flight nights with DJ. This feels like the Late Show, full of comedy and flying. Well, Lokestar, as long as I'm bringing quality flight simming entertainment to you fine folks on stream that hopefully elicits a chuckle, and hopefully not a mirthless chuckle at that every once in a while, I am perfectly fine and happy to provide set entertainment to you, fine sir. So thanks for hanging out with us and enjoying the comedy show. Welcome on board. Castillo says it's nearly 4 a.m. for you. You know what you'll spend your night on. Holy cow, where are you located there, Castillos? You wish you had some snacks with... Oh man, I love midnight snacking. I am a midnight snack addict. I get in trouble for it too. But luckily, you know, I've got a my metabolism is like super active. So thankfully, you know, I tend to burn off the calories pretty quickly and easily. But boy, I tend to be a hell of a snacker myself. Okay, let's go ahead and start up the engines here. Let's start up the right engine first. Start gen switch into the start position on the right engine. Turbine speed coming up there. 10, 12, 13. Let's go ahead and move the thrust lever into the idle position on engine 2. Turbine temps coming up, fan speed coming up, oil pressure, fuel flow, fan speed coming up in a hurry, turbine speed coming back down, turbine temps coming back down, and the engine is starting to stabilize. Good start there on engine 2. Let's go ahead and start up engine 1. Start gen switch into the start position. Turbine speed coming up. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let's move that thrust lever into the idle position there. Let's move the right start gen switch into the gen position. And there we go. Turbine temps, fan speed, fuel flow, oil pressure. Looks like this engine is starting up just fine as well. There we go, good start. Ignition switch off, and let's move the start gen switch into the gen position. And we've had a good start on both engines. All the lights are out up here. GPU has been disconnected by our very, very efficient ground crew there that we can't see because they're invisible. Let me catch up on chat here before we move any further. Castillo says, you're watching from the Faroe Islands. How about that, Castillos? That's awesome. Are you in Vagar or one of the other locations around the Faroe Islands? That's super awesome. Wow, it's a first for me on stream today. Two firsts. So we had Hirthik earlier from Nepal. First time we've had a gentleman from Nepal on the show and on the channel, and first time I think we've had somebody from the Faroe Islands as well. That's awesome, Castillos. Welcome on board from the Faroe Islands. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Hopefully we provide some quality late night entertainment for you, or early morning entertainment rather, in the Faroe Islands. Lokestar said you finally bought this aircraft and the Q400. That is awesome, Lokestar. Yes, I totally agree. Both are awesome. So Lokestar, one of the things we have to do, you are aware, right, that the, what is it called? The Majestic Q400 has a shared flight deck. We've got to do the shared flight deck on stream at some point, in that case, since you now own the Q400. Of course, you know, I'm going to give you plenty of time to get fully acclimatized and familiar with that aircraft, which is super fun to fly. But once you're familiar with that aircraft, I'd be happy to do a shared flight deck with you in the Q400. And Castillo says you're watching from Klaksvik. Both have been, but you've been to Vagar very often. Awesome, Castillos. That is super awesome. Well, thanks for hanging out with us today from the fine country of the Faroe Islands. That's super awesome. And Lokestar says absolutely awesome. Awesome. Castillo says you actually have a rare viewer. Totally, yeah. I've never had somebody from the Faroe Islands join it before. That's super awesome. Okay, let's go through our before taxi check here. GPU is disconnected, generators are online, starter disengagement lights are out, fuel computer is checked, spoiler on. Let's go ahead and extend that, make sure that works. Spoiler light coming on. Let's go ahead and retract that, make sure the spoiler light goes out. It did, that's fantastic. Anti-ice is checked. Let's go ahead and turn on the pitot heats there. And no smoking seatbelt sign coming on. I don't know why that's so late in the checklist. That should probably come on before the start, but anyway. Windshield heat purged off and in. Gyro flags clear on the right, clear on the left. No flags. Hydraulic pressure, let's go ahead and check that. Make sure we've got sufficient hydraulic pressure. That is positive. That's looking good. Parking brake released and before taxi check completed. Okay. Let's go ahead and start taxiing out here. Just going to pull up my airport map here on my iPad, and we'll start taxiing out. Castillo's, well, I'm not sure why Streamlabs started deleting your messages there, Castillo's. I do apologize for that. Streamlabs, I don't know why it does that. Streamlabs is kind of crazy. But watch the all caps there. Streamlabs gets annoyed for some reason. Castillo says, you are in shock. No one can pronounce it right. Did I actually pronounce it right? Because I had no idea what I was doing when I pronounced it. I just said the first thing that came to mind. I said Klaksvik. You know, I try to sound relatively Scandinavian when I did that, and I think maybe that's what did the trick. Okay, parking brakes released. Let's go ahead and get that taxi light on, and we'll start taxiing out here. And one thing I want to do here real quick is make sure that I get rid of AI traffic. That way, the only traffic we're seeing is on Pilotedge. And let's start taxiing out here. We're going to hang a left onto Delta. And let's get that steering switch on there. That way we can steer the aircraft using the rudder. Phelps traffic, Learjet 354 Charlie Lima, taxiing from the terminal to hold short of 22 right via Delta Bravo Alpha, Phelpsfield. Okay, let's start taxiing here. Make sure we're clear on the left. Indeed we are. And we're definitely clear on the right there. There is nobody around us for sure. Well, I'm glad I pronounced that correctly there, Castillos. Glokestar says, just came to seem to figure out how the rudder axis control the nose wheel. So if you mean on the Q400 there, Lokestar, or do you mean on the Flysimware Lear-35? For the Lear-35, you know, you can do it a couple of ways, right? One is to... Actually, wait, you're talking about the axis. Oh, so you're definitely referring to the Lear-35 in that case. So for the or not the Lear-35, the Q400, sorry. The Q400, they give you a couple of options. And once again, we've got these, remember these crazy oversized taxi lights from last week? Well, here we are again with these crazy oversized taxi lights that we're going to try not to wreck a wingtip on. But the Q400, if you go to the control panel, Lokestar, for the Majestic Q400, there is an option there to set an axis. So unfortunately, you can't set the twist axis on your joystick. You have to set the aileron axis or whatever you have set for the rudder axis, I guess. I'm not sure. But I have my aileron axis set for the Q400. So the aileron axis serves as the tiller when I'm on the ground in the Q400. And it works pretty well. You know, it's semi-realistic, I'd say, and it feels pretty good. You know, the only thing that sucks about it is the amount of resistance my joystick for the ailerons. So if I'm doing a full deflection for a tight turn, you know, the amount of resistance I have just doesn't feel right, you know. It feels like I have to put in way too much force to get the aircraft to turn on the ground. But you know, those are like, you know, that's like me nitpicking. It's not a bad issue at all. It works pretty well for me. Castillos was asking, do I have prepared version 5? No, I do not, Castillos. I was thinking about getting it now that FS Labs has been fully updated for P3D version 5, at least the A320X from FS Labs. I've been thinking about getting it, but on the other hand, you know, to be honest, I'm in the alpha for the Microsoft Flight Simulator, the new one that's coming out. And obviously, I can't say anything more than I'm in the alpha, but to be honest with you, P3D version 5 is not something that I'm super jazzed about right now. You know, it's not exactly what I would consider worth my money at this point in time. So yeah, I'm holding off on it. There's nothing I've seen from it yet that makes me think it's an immediate decision in order to purchase. And we're crossing 22 left here. Phelpsfield traffic, Lear 354 Charlie Lima, crossing 22 left to hold short of 22 right, Phelpsfield. And once again, just check departure end, approach end. I probably should have done that before we actually taxied on, but I didn't see anybody, so we're good. All right, so let's go ahead and taxi up here to hold short of 22 right. And once again, on the other side of 22 left, let's get the strobes off. And let's go ahead and do our taxi check here, and then we'll call departure to let them know we're ready for release. Okay, taxi check. Departure runway bugged and verified. Runway 22 right. Transponder as required. Should have... Oops. Forgot to put in my transponder code. Big deal. 2210. Altitude reporting. Enter... Hey, why is it doing that? 2210, please. There we go. And once again, I've got to go into my Pilotedge client, make sure we're squawking mode C on Pilotedge as well. So that's set. And one last thing I want to do is... actually, we're good for now. Let's continue here through our... checks. Okay, transponder set, brakes and steering checked, anti-skid on, lights out, flight controls, let's check our flight controls. Full left, full right, neutral, full up, full down, neutral, and let's hide that yoke there. Rudder pedals, full left, full right, neutral on the rudder. Okay, fantastic, we got all that set. Let's continue through our checklist here. Flight instruments checked, spoilers retracted, and light is out. Flaps set 8 degrees for takeoff. Okay, 8 degrees, set and verified. Trims 3 set, primary, and light is out up on the non-shader panel there. Fuel quantity balance check, current limiters, lights are out, electrical panel check, engine instruments checked, avionics set and reviewed, thrust reversers. Let's go ahead and arm them. Oops. Avionics set and reviewed, speed bugs N1 set and verified, about 130 knots in our rotation there, and we're all good there. N1, we're going to set about 95% N1 for takeoff. Pressurization set and verified, cabin air coming on there. Bleed air, cabin air on, cabin temp control set, coffee as desired, takeoff briefing complete, taxi check completed. Let's get our stall warning on, that way we can clear out all the warnings in the non-shader panel there. And let's go ahead and call up departure here, and we'll let them know we're ready for release. And I'll catch up on chat as soon as we're airborne here, folks. Spokane departure, Learjet 354 Charlie Lima on the ground at Phelps Field. We're ready for IFR release.
354 Charlie Lima, release for departure, clearance void if not off in 3 minutes, if not off in 3 minutes, advise intentions, not later than 5 minutes, change to advisory frequency approved.
Release for departure, change to advisory approved, Lear 354 Charlie Lima, thanks. Okay, release for departure, we got to be off in 3 minutes here in a hurry, so before takeoff checklist, park and brake, release, transponder, TCAS, TOS on, thrust reversers, arm, pitot heat on, anti-ice is required, lights coming on there, strobes coming on, recognition lights coming on, anti-ice, cabin air on, stall warning on, ignition coming on, ignition on the left and right, annunciator panel, normal, departure runway, bugs the line and verified before takeoff checklist completed. Let's go ahead and line up here and we'll get going. Okay, let's make sure that final is looking clear there. Phelps Field traffic, Lear 354 Charlie Lima taking off runway 22 right. I'll be departing on the Phelps for departure to the south, Phelps Field. Okay, let's go ahead and line up here and we'll get going. Blim Blim, welcome on board. Hope you're doing well there, Blim Blim. And I'll answer your question in just a second. Jaime Plink Blanco Pinto, welcome on board to you as well. Hope you're doing well. And Blim Blim, welcome from the beautiful island of Jamaica. Welcome on board. Hope you're doing well. And of course, we've got a fantastic individual in our flight sim community, of course. The awesome X-Plane 1972 also happens to be from Jamaica. Okay, let's get going here. Let's set takeoff power. We're all lined up. Takeoff power set. We're lined up. Airspeed coming alive. Not yet, not yet. There we go. Airspeed coming alive. 80 knots. 100 knots. V1. Rotate. Boy, we were cutting it kind of close there to the end of the runway. Positive rate, gear coming up. As we climb out like a rocket here. Let's turn to heading of 190. Let's get that yaw damper on. Let's switch to departure frequency here. Now let's get that flaps up. And we're going to climb out and heading of 190 to 5500. Let's back off on the thrust there just a little bit to take to climb thrust, and we'll accelerate to 250 knots in the climb. Spokane departure, good evening, Lear 9025, correction, Lear 354 Charlie Lima, climbing through 3.4 for 13,000.
Charlie Lima, Spokane approach item.
Okay, let's go ahead and engage the autopilot here. Vertical speed mode, all cell, heading bugged. And I'll catch up on chat here in just a few minutes.
354 Charlie Lima, waiting for the ident.
Well, ident, 354 Charlie Lima, sorry. Okay, missed that for some reason. Identing.
354 Charlie Lima, radar contact 7.5 miles east of Spokane Airport, Spokane
29er, 79er, Lear, not 354 Charlie Lima. Okay, we're going to climb out at 250 knots here. Ready to long. This is in Spokane, Washington, on the eastern side of Washington, the state of Washington there. Okay, climbing out here. Let's go ahead and go through our climb check. Thrust reversers coming off. Landing gear is up, yaw damper is engaged. Thrust reversers off, flaps are up, pressurization is on and working. Ignition as required is off, and let's get those landing lights off. Autopilot approach light out, hydraulic pressure checked. Angle of attack indicator cross-checked, both sides. It's actually, yeah, there it is. It's good. Climb check is completed. Okay, let's keep our climb going here. And I'm glad that for once we've got the autopilot AFCS enunciations working there, because last week we had some problems with that. Okay, vertical speed bugged again. Just going to accelerate up to 250 there. Okay, speed mode and the climb. And let me catch up on chat here. Okay, what did I miss? I missed a ton. Seattle Center 132.6 for Charlie Lima, thank you. Okay, 1326.
62 is Brewing, tapping that.
Just going to hold off for a second here. I really do like this livery. This is Clay Lacy Aviation, based out of Van Nuys, Southern California. Seattle Center, good evening. Lear 354 Charlie Lima, climbing through 11,000 for 13,000.
Charlie Lima, Seattle Center, climb and maintain flight level 230.
Climb maintain flight level 230, Lear 354 Charlie Lima. Okay, up to 230. Continue our climb here. Let me catch up on chat. Sorry, I know I missed a lot. Logstar says that's very strange. You've been using your mouse to control the tiller. Logstar, you should have an option to use the aileron axis. Look in your Majestic Control Center, and there should be an option in there. In fact, I can probably pull that up here in a second to show you. I'm going to show you that once we get up to a cruising flight level, because we're going to have a bit of time en route. We should be able to look at that. Castillo says you were also waiting for FS Labs, then noticed that V5 was not an update. So it should be free, actually, Castillo's. For the FS Labs update for V5 should be totally free. Blim Blim was asking, what kind of GPU do I have and what's up? Blim Blim, what's up is that we're doing a very impromptu late night live stream here on Hump Day, Wednesday here. Just had some time. I figured I was going to fly in Pilotedge anyway. Why not share a flight with you fine folks on stream? But the kind of GPU I have, to your other question, is the very old GTX 980 Ti. So it's, I think, 6 gigs of RAM, video RAM from way back in the day. So that's what I have. Jaime Blanco Pinto was saying, how do you link both GTN 750s? Just brought yours yesterday. Jaime, unfortunately, there's no way to link them. The only thing that you can do is actually, one second. Let me call up center here. Seattle Center, Lear 354 Charlie Lima, could we request direct Coeur d'Alene?
4 Charlie Lima, clear direct Coeur d'Alene.
Clear direct Coeur d'Alene, 354 Charlie Lima, thank you. Okay, let's go direct to Coeur d'Alene here. Ooh, come on. There we go. Okay, direct Coeur d'Alene, and let's go nav mode there, and we're going to proceed direct Coeur d'Alene.
14, 8,000, climbing 230.
And we're going to do the same thing on this side just to make sure both GTN 750s are doing the same thing. Activate. We're going direct. I should probably have requested that earlier. Okay, and our course towards Coeur d'Alene is going to be 024. Awesome, awesome, awesome. That was my fault. I should have requested that earlier. Okay, we're through transition here. Altimeters reset 29902. Climbing up to flight level 230, alt cell. Okay, 10,000 foot check, no smoking seatbelt sign, off. Pressurization checked. There we go. 10,000 foot check complete, and then transition. 125.1 for 354 Charlie Lima. Okay, 125.1. Continuing through our transition check here, air conditioning recognition lights actually coming off. Oxygen pressure checked and transition check is completed. Let's call up Seattle Center here. Seattle Center, good evening. Lear-35 Charlie Lima, flight level 211, climbing 230.
Lear-35 Charlie Lima, Seattle Center, climb and maintain flight level 370.
Climb maintain flight level 370, 354 Charlie Lima. So 354 Charlie Lima really does not roll off the tongue too well, does it? it's a bit of a tongue twister there, I'm going to be honest. It is a bit of a tongue twister. Okay, let me just make sure we're going direct to here. Okay. There we go. That's better. Whoops. All right, there we go. All right, let's continue our climb here. And I'll catch up on chat. Sorry, I know I missed a lot. Sorry about that, folks. Carl Montalbo, welcome on board. Hope you're doing well. We are going from Spokane, Washington to Big Sky Country, Montana. We're going to Bozeman, Montana. Gregory DeLong was asking, where is this airport and why does it have a short runway? So as I mentioned earlier, we were at Phelps Field in Spokane, Washington, on the eastern side of the state of Washington. And it is a small GA airport. That's why it has a very short runway, essentially. I probably should not be flying an aircraft like the Lear-35 out of such a short runway, but I figured we're flight simming. Why not have some fun? So we decided to do that. Oh, Gregory DeLon, the airport we're going to is... you meant the airport we're going to. The airport we're going to is Bozeman in Montana. Identifier is Kilo Bravo Zulu November, and that actually has a pretty decent sized runway. That is not a short runway at all, if I remember correctly. Castillo, thank you for the kind words, much appreciated. Castillo says you need to buy V5 and not upgrade it from V4. Well, you know, Castillo's, I'm kind of, as I said before, you know, there's nothing super compelling for me personally in V5, so that's the reason, you know, for me personally, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to upgrade at this point. The other issue, of course, is if I do upgrade to V5, there's a lot of work that has to go into, you know, scenery add-ons, and making sure I have sufficient disk space to accommodate both the Flightsim Alpha and V5, and as of right now, you know, I just don't have the patience personally, you know, to go through that entire process, unfortunately. So for me, I'm kind of holding off on V5 just because I don't really have the patience for it. Blim Blim says, thanks, the graphics look good. Awesome. Well, I'm glad you like them there, Blim Blim. I think they look fantastic. They look great, especially, you know, the Flysimware Lear-35 does have full PBR effects, right? So it does look really, really good, in my opinion. It looks really good, especially at golden hour when the sun is going down like this. It looks really, really good. And as I mentioned, this particular aircraft, 354 Charlie Lima, this is a real-world registration, right? This aircraft is operated out of Van Nuys in Southern California by Clay Lacy Aviation. So that's where Charlie Lima comes from, CL for Clay Lacy in Van Nuys, California. Pretty cool. Castillos was asking, do you think MSFS is going to be done this year or early next year? Castillos, I have no idea. I think the hope is that it comes out later this year, hopefully in time for the holidays, but to be honest with you, I don't think anybody has any idea. We'll have to hold off and see what happens. We'll have to hold off, unfortunately, and just see what happens, like everybody, you know, or we'll have to just see what happens like everybody else, you know, just watch and wait to see what happens. Hopefully it does release before the holidays, but you never know. You know, they have been talking about getting a beta out before the summer is over. So if the beta comes out before the summer is up, then maybe there's a reasonable chance that the actual full, you know, release could be just prior to the holidays or around the time of the holidays. So we'll have to see what happens this year. I'm not quite sure just yet. Castillos, unfortunately, that command does not work. I don't have a lot of these commands set up on my channel just yet. I think the only thing I have is specs and route. So those are the only two commands I have. Lokestar says, DJ, you've been looking for good scenery for Aspen, like Orbx quality, but you only found Aerosoft. You want to try that challenging approach too? Oh, totally, Lokestar. Yeah, the roaring fork visual approach into Aspen is like super fun for sure. But unfortunately, yeah, you're right. The only add-on is Aerosoft. But I'm going to be honest, the Aerosoft scenery actually does look really, really good. And that's a fantastic, you know, one to do in the Lear. If you've got the you have the Flysimware Lear-35, so that's a fantastic one to do in the Flysimware Lear-35. The Aerosoft photoreal, you know, scenery package for Aspen, I think it's a few years old, but it actually still works pretty well. I don't own it myself. I was thinking about buying it, but from what I've seen from other streamers, it does look pretty good. So yeah, we'll have to see. You know, I don't know if I'd recommend buying it because I don't own it myself, but I think it looks pretty good from what I've seen from other streams. I think Citation Max on Twitch was doing a flight into Aspen on his channel just a few months ago, and that scenery actually looked relatively good on his computer. So there's that. Joe A says, you found me via Captain Mac. Yeah, Captain Mac's awesome. Thank you there, Joe A. Really appreciate the kind words. Yeah, and actually, I've got that reminds me. So Captain Mac, actually, he's an awesome guy. You know, he's been streaming and sharing some great flight sim content on his channel for a number of years now, I think, actually. For at least a couple of years, if not longer, but he's got a fantastic channel as well. I strongly recommend it. He actually hooked me on to SimToolkit Pro, which I absolutely love. For those of you that are looking for an alternative to Project Fly, I can't recommend SimToolkit Pro highly enough. And if you go on Captain Mac's channel, Captain Mac had a video from, I'd say about 3 or 4, maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, where he did like a full intro into SimToolkit Pro, like a really, really useful overview. It was almost a tutorial, basically, talking about how SimToolkit Pro works and how to use it, and it was just a fantastically helpful video. Strongly recommend checking out his channel for sure. But thanks for hanging out with us here, Joe. Really appreciate it. Welcome on board. Hope you're having a good time so far. Castillo says, your first flight in MSFS will be a Vagar to your house. Totally. I totally makes sense. I think that's what a lot of people are going to be doing when the new flight simulator officially releases. I think a lot of folks are just going to be hopping on what do you call it? Well, the first thing you're going to be visiting is your house, because it is fantastically detailed, you know, especially some of the bigger cities. If you happen to be living in a city that has some great Bing map coverage, which is a lot of major cities in the US, right? There's some fantastic coverage there from the new Microsoft Flight Simulator, at least as far as what they've announced publicly. Okay, we're going to come up on 370 here very shortly. Let me set my course bug here to 100 as we proceed from Coeur d'Alene to Missoula, Montana. We've crossed the border here from eastern Washington into western Montana. Actually, correction, we're in Idaho at the moment. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. Never mind. We're not in Big Sky Country just yet. We're over the fantastic state of Idaho with its potato-related curiosities. I'm kidding, of course. Idaho is actually an incredibly beautiful state. There's a lot more to Idaho than just potatoes. But just for laughs, we're going to say that's what Idaho is most well known for, right? The potatoes. Okay. Castillo's, actually, Joe A was saying he may or may not have an actual tutorial coming soon. That's fantastic to hear there, Joe. As soon as he drops a tutorial on, okay, altitude capture mode engaged. You saw the aircraft do something interesting there. It kind of did something interesting with the pitch that I didn't really like too much. It kind of jumped up and down a little bit, but that's fine. We're leveling off here at 370. Let's go ahead and set our cruise power here using our fuel flow gauges. We're going to set about 600 pounds. Actually, let's make it about 625 pounds per hour of fuel flow on each engine, and that should give us a reasonable cruise power setting. As we head over to Bozeman, Idaho today. Or sorry, Bozeman, Montana, not Bozeman, Idaho, Bozeman, Montana. And let me check on the winds here at Bozeman. Winds at 320 at 8 knots, so we're going to plan on the oh, okay, for some reason, I guess, I guess they don't have the, don't have that approach plate, the most recent one, the RMP 30. Okay, so what we're probably going to do is fly the RNAV. You know what, actually it's visual meteorological conditions at Bozeman, so we're just going to do the visual approach to runway 30. Yeah, so we'll just do the visual approach 30 here. We'll fly a pattern into 30 since that's the only option we have. So let's load that approach. So we got that, and let's go ahead and get some VNAV guidance going here. Oh, never mind. For some reason, it's not giving me a VNAV thing there. Let's go to system. Not system, sorry. I want to go to utilities. VNAV, trip planning, sensor data, fuel planning. You know what? That's fine. We'll just wait for ADC instructions to descend. So we're all good there. Okay, we're doing fantastic. Let's keep it going here. Let's switch to some cinematic camera views, and I'll catch up on chat here. Ensa92, yo yourself, welcome on board. Hope you're doing well there, Ensa. Welcome on board. Thanks for hanging out with us. Castillo's, I can't answer that, unfortunately, due to the strict limitations of an NDA. Lokestar says you'll fly into Madeira when it comes out. Awesome, Lokestar. That is going to be super awesome for sure in the new Microsoft Flight Simulator. Castillo says, how do they deal with copyright like Starbucks and McDonald's restaurants? I don't think that's an issue there, Castillos. I don't think it should be an issue. You know, if you think about it, right, Google Street View, Google Earth already has that, right? If you go on Google Street View, you're going to see Starbucks on almost every corner, right, in a major American city. So I'm sure there's those sorts of things can get worked out pretty easy. I don't think that should be an issue. Castillo says the engine is very loud. That's fine. I'm just going to turn off the engine sounds there. That way we don't have to deal with that. And thanks for letting me know, though, Castillos. Engine sounds have been turned off, so we don't have that to worry about. Let me make sure that I'm still connected here to Pilotedge. I am. Okay, that's good. always a good idea to check. Make sure you're still connected to the network. Let's see. Advanced console. Just want to make sure everything's still working the way it's supposed to. Okay, fantastic. Matthew Dickinson, welcome aboard. Hope you're doing well. Matthew Dickinson says, you're getting typed into Lear-35 soon in real life. You're super hyped. Well, Matthew, if I was getting type rated in the Lear-35 in real life, I would be super hyped as well. So I'm super happy for you, my friend. That sounds super awesome. Out of curiosity, where are you flying the Lear-35, and how long, just out of curiosity, does the type rating take in the Lear-35? I actually had another pilot recently who I think just recently got her type rating in the Lear-35, so it sounds like she's got tons of experience. She was just commenting on my channel earlier. I think she's a 10,000 hour pilot, but 10,000 hour pilot rather, but she was super stoked as well, it sounded like, about getting type rated in the Lear-35. I gotta tell you, just you know, I've never flown an aircraft this big in real life, obviously. You know, I've only flown small aircraft, primarily tailwheel aircraft in real life, and a fair amount of glider time as well. But I gotta tell you, this aircraft looks super fun, super interesting to fly for sure. I'm super jealous that you get to fly it in real life. That's super awesome there, Matthew. But welcome aboard. Feel free, as you're watching this stream, to chime in with any sort of comments, feedback, criticisms, etc., critiques, etc., of anything you see that may clearly not be in line with real-world procedure. It's always nice to have real-world pilots on stream who know the stuff better than we do. Let's see, Yag Nation, welcome on board. No worries at all there, Yag. You're thanks for hanging out with us. Welcome on board. Yag says you just woke up. How are things going for you in, if I remember correctly, you're in Thailand, right? Not sure if I got that wrong, but let me know. Hrithik Pokrel says, any thoughts on trying the ATR-72? Hrithik, if you're referring to the ATR from Coronado, I did not own that add-on. To be honest, oh, I love that flyby view just there. That looks awesome. I am not the biggest fan, to be honest, of I'm not the super biggest fan, to be honest, of Coronado aircraft, because I think they look great on the outside, but when it comes to the actual modeling of the systems, and even just kind of the flying of the aircraft, you know, they're not aircraft that are add-ons that are my cup of tea. So I tend to avoid the Coronado add-ons just primarily because I've had experience owning some of them, and I haven't come away with the best impression, to be honest. I think they work great for people that, you know, they're not looking to do, people who are not looking to do hardcore flight simming, right? You're just looking to fly an aircraft that works reasonably well, that is relatively easy to hand fly, etc. I'd say more power to you if you're looking for the Coronado aircraft. But me personally, you know, I prefer something with a bit more systems depth, like the Majestic Q400, an aircraft like that. So that's kind of where I stand on that. And I just want to check to make sure I haven't missed anything here on Pilotedge. Yep, I'm all good, all caught up. Let's hop back into the cabin here, and let's experience life as a VIP executive passenger, kicking back and relaxing on one of these Lear-35 flights. So we'll hang out back here for a little bit. And Hrithik, yeah, unfortunately, I'm not the biggest fan of the ATR, but we'll probably do a Majestic Q400 flight on stream at some point in the near future, because I absolutely love that aircraft. Joe A says, have I considered working... Actually, Joe, avoid the sirs. I have not been knighted, and I have no interest in being benighted, so to speak. So there's no need for formalities on this channel. You can just call me DJ or dude or whatever you prefer. That's not too offensive, of course. But no need for the sir or anything like that. But Joe was asking if I ever considered a virtual airline. Joe, I used to do the virtual airline thing in the past. I'm not the biggest virtual airline guy at the moment, just because you know, it's hard for me to squeeze in the time to do the whole virtual airline thing. So okay, that works even with the sound off. That's awesome.
Yeah, we'd just like to take about a 5-10 minute break away from the computer. We'll advise them back.
Yeah, so I think, you know, I used to do the virtual airline thing a fair amount. So I used to be part of Southwest Virtual and some other virtual airlines, but I don't do it that much.
On 135.77.
at the moment. So yeah, there we go. Castillo's, I do not have a Discord server. And Yag Nation...
Lima, contact Salt Lake Center, 128.72.
Salt Lake 12872 for Charlie Lima. Okay, Salt Lake 12872. Okay. Let's go ahead and tune that in, and we'll call up Salt Lake here. Salt Lake Center, good evening. Lear-jet 354 Charlie Lima, flight level 370.
354 Charlie Lima, Salt Lake Center, thank you. Descend at pilot's discretion, maintain flight level 240.
Pilot's discretion, descend to flight level 240, 354 Charlie Lima. Boy, that call sign really does not roll off the tongue. It's a bit of a tongue twister for sure. I'm having a hard time with it. Okay, let's set 240 here in the heading bug. And we've been cleared to descend down to 240. I'm going to start my descent once I'm past Missoula here. Yeah, that's what we'll do. We'll start out at Missoula. Descent there. Let's see if that helps. Nope, that did not help at all. Okay, that's fine. No worries. We'll just start our descent once we get past Missoula here in about 25 miles. Okay, let's switch back to cinematic camera view here, and sorry I missed, or I was about to say something there. So Yak Nation with some fantastic news, at least for his part of the world. Yak Nation says no new COVID cases in Thailand for 39 days. Yag, that would be so awesome if we had something like that, if we had good news like that here in the States. The situation here is just absolutely... it's depressing, you know. It's I don't want to say nightmarish, but it is a little, you know. It's a little scary, to be honest with you, the situation here in the States. At the moment, you know, we had 50,000 cases, new cases today. Thankfully, you know, a lot less of the percentage of new cases now are fatal or resulting in fatalities. But as the numbers climb, you know that those percentages, even in terms of fatalities, are going to go up. So, yeah, it's an awful situation here stateside. We have a truly awful situation. But hey, you know, we got to do what we can to stay sane. You know, stay. You know, do our part to stay healthy, make sure we don't infect others, etc. You know, we got to do our part. That's all we can do at the moment. A little bit of a sim stutter there. Hopefully that recovers. There we go. Thank God. I thought that was going to freeze. Let's see. Matthew Dickinson says it's 1 week of ground and then 1 week of sim. It's a medevac company based in the Southeast USA. That's awesome, Matthew. That's a super interesting gig for sure. But wow, that's super quick too. You know that in 2 weeks' time you're going to be ready to go and step into medevac operations. That's super cool. Now, out of curiosity, what does life look like as a medevac pilot? You know, obviously, right? I'm imagining that it's not like a set schedule. You know, I'm imagining that you're just like, you know, basically you're running an air ambulance, right? To an extent, I'm imagining, you know, you're pretty much on call, and as things come up, you kind of have to respond to whatever, you know, mission you're given as part of being a medevac pilot. But that's super cool. Castillo's, I did not have a Dornier add-on as well, unfortunately. Matthew says, but they operate anywhere in North America. Yeah, that makes sense, right? If it's an aircraft with the range of a Lear, that you totally are able to fly around and get where you need to go. Lokestar says, stretch your legs, make yourself comfortable. I'm assuming you're referring to being in the cabin interior there. Totally. Yeah, there we go. Joe A says, you asked because you are the COO of Millennium Aviation, the virtual airline founded by Captain Mac. Oh, how about that?
Center, good evening.
You were created to be not like any other WEA. While you have a 60 flight requirement, you can fly wherever you want, wherever you want. I'm going to have to look into that there, Joe. I'll certainly look into that virtual airline for sure. But super awesome that Captain Mac started his own virtual airline there. Okay, let's take a look here. We're coming up on Missoula. Let's go ahead and start our descent, actually. So let's go through a descent check, windshield heat, aux defog. Let's go ahead and get that on. And if I remember correctly, I don't know how far into your type rating you are there at the moment, Matthew, but in the Lear, I think fogging up of the windshield is a pretty big issue, if I understand correctly, on descent. So we probably want to get those on during the descent here. Let's go ahead and roll our altitude selector down here to our airport elevation of 4,500 feet. So right about there, actually. Not too much further down. And let's go through a descent check. Windshield heat, aux defog as required. Cabin controller set to field elevation. Anti-ice systems required. Descent check completed. Let's go ahead and start our descent. Altitude hold disengaged. Let's go to altcell. And let's start our descent here. We'll descend down at about 2,000 feet per minute initially. Whoops. A little too quick on the descent there. Here we go. Whoops. I am not doing the best job here of making fine adjustments to the vertical speed indicator, but or the vertical speed on our descent here, but that's fine. Okay, it's good enough for now. I'll let the autopilot work out the issues here. Obviously, it just didn't trim properly there. Okay, we're descending flight level 370 down to 270. We're going to keep that descent going. Boy, why is it oscillating so much on the during the descent there? It is oscillating a ton. Oh, I know why, because I had speed mode set in the descent. I should have set vertical speed mode instead. That was a that was me screwing up there and not looking closely at the AFCS mode that I was selecting. Okay, now we're in vertical speed mode, and we're going to keep our descent going down to flight level 240. Okay, yeah, but Joe, I'm definitely going to look into that VA for sure. That sounds interesting. But Joe says one of the attractions is to fly whatever you want, whenever you want. Oh, that does sound pretty interesting there, Joe. That's one of the things about a lot of VAs, right? And actually we want to descend about 250 knots in our descent, so I'm going to bump up my throttle here just a little bit. That's one of the things about a lot of VAs. It's typically, you know, there's a schedule that ties you to certain airlines or certain aircraft and certain routes, certain liveries on certain routes, and it's pretty restrictive. So it's kind of nice to have a virtual airline that doesn't have those kind of restrictions. So I'm certainly going to look into that for sure. That sounds super interesting. Thanks for making me aware of that. I'll certainly look into it. Lokstar, yes indeed. Yag Nation says, FYI, it's pronounced Thailand. The H is silent, not Thailand. Interesting. Okay. I guess I've just been so used to calling it Thailand that that's just the way I've done it. But thanks for the correction there. From a local, that's always good to hear and know about. Castillo says, there have been 189 cases in the Faroe Islands, but since over a month, you have not had none and no fatal cases. So that's pretty awesome, Castillos. That's good to hear. Always nice to have a little ray of sunlight and some good news in this very, very dark times, even if it's in certain isolated parts of the world. That's always awesome. Matthew Dickinson says the schedule isn't too bad. 7 on, 7 off, living in base with 2-hour callouts. Interesting. Okay. Well, thanks for that, Matthew. That's learned something new today, because I was always curious how what life is like as a medevac pilot. And out of curiosity, Matthew, what types were you flying prior to hopping into the Lear? And were you working as a corporate pilot prior to this, or were you doing medevac type work prior to this, or what kind of work were you doing? I'm just kind of curious. And again, just as always on my channel, when I ask questions that might be personal, by the way, feel free, if it crosses, feel free not to answer in case any of my questions, are crossing into an area that you don't feel comfortable answering. That goes for everybody, of course. Castillo says, Tagaland. Okay. What are you referring to? I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I missed something there. I'm not sure what Castillos was talking about. Hrithik Prokrel says, in Nepal, there are more than Just keeping my descent going here. Checking in on my, so I do have all cells set there, so that's good. Okay, Hitek Procorel was saying in Nepal there are more than 11,000 cases and only 30 fatal. It's a country of brave Gurkhas. Well, I've certainly heard of the Gurkhas of Nepal for sure, but that's super awesome there, Hitek, that so far it's been limited. You know, the challenge, of course, there, Hitek, right, is that you do have this massive country of Nepal on your southern, sorry, not Nepal, but this massive country of India on your southern border, and India is now suffering through one of the worst outbreaks of COVID anywhere in the world, right? I think they're either number 4 or number 5 on the list now in terms of total cases. And so, yeah, you know, countries that border India are certainly going to have a challenge, right? Especially, you know, a country like Nepal that might have a lot of traffic, you know, across the border in terms of trade and, you know, people going back and forth, you know, between India and Nepal. So hopefully, you know, things still stay relatively okay there in Nepal as well. But best wishes, thoughts, and prayers. You know, hope, you know, knock on wood, everything stays well in the countries that some of you folks are from. Yak Nation says, you don't know why or how, but, well, thanks for that, Yak. I do appreciate the kind words. I'm not sure if they're relaxing. They're relaxing to a point. You know, once we come up on, on things like landing, etc., I think you folks know, those of you that have been following my channel for a while at least, that I have a penchant and a very weird...
354 Charlie Lima, contact Salt Lake Center 133.4.
Salt Lake Center 133.4, Lear-35 Charlie Lima. Okay, 1334 Salt Lake. Salt Lake, hello. Learjet 354 Charlie Lima, flight level 251, descending 240.
354 Charlie Lima, Salt Lake Center, thank you. Bozeman altimeter 2981, descend and maintain 3000.
Altimeter 2981, descend and maintain 13,000, Lear 354 Charlie Lima. Okay, 13,000, and boy, I don't know if you folks can tell, but I am definitely struggling with our call sign today. I am having a hell of a time pronouncing our call sign, or, you know, saying our call sign. Charlie Lima is, those are a couple of phonetic alphabets that just do not roll off the tongue. They should not be placed next to each other. There need to be some new rules around certain phonetic letters being right next to each other on an aircraft registration or something, right? You would think. Okay, let's increase our rate of descent here just a smidgen. Just a bit more of a smidgen. A smidgen to a smidgen. There we go. Now we're descending at about 2,000 feet per minute. I'm going to slow down at 250 knots in the descent. Let's get that windshield heat off. We don't need that anymore. Actually, you know what? We're going through the clouds here in a second. Let's get it back on. All right, let's switch back to cinematic views, and I'm going to catch up on chat here. But thanks for the kind words there, Yak Nation. Much appreciated. Joe A says, yes, sir, we do our best to accommodate every type of sim pilot. You can add the link, but if you look up, you can't add the link, but if you look up Mac Air Virtual all in one word, I'm certainly going to look it up there, Joe. But thank you for making me aware of that. I'm actually going to find that link right now and post it in chat. That way, you know, I can make other folks aware as well. Captain Mac, I think, has an awesome channel. You know, and I certainly would not want to miss an opportunity to promote a virtual airline that he has, that him and you co-founded, because I think he's an awesome guy. So let me go ahead and put that link in chat here. That way, anybody on chat that wants to take a look at an interesting virtual airline that was started by our good friend Captain Mac and Joe A, feel free to take a look at that link. And I'll certainly look it up myself as well there. But thanks for that, Joe A. Let's see, what else did I miss here? We're getting along. Yes, indeed, we've started our descent a little while back. We're descending from 240 down to 13,000 here towards Bozeman, Montana. But we are in Big Sky country already. We've crossed over the border from Idaho into Actually, we haven't yet. I thought we'd... Actually, no, we have. I'm sorry. I'm having a bit of a brain fart here. But we did cross over. We flew over Missoula, Montana earlier. Anybody who's watched the fantastic movie from way back in the day, A River Runs Through It, right? You probably heard of Missoula from there, if you haven't visited that beautiful place. But we are in Big Sky Country. We're over at the beautiful state of Montana at the moment, and we're headed down towards Bozeman, Montana. Okay, let me catch up on everything else I missed in chat here. Castillo says H is pronounced age. Okay, interesting. In Thailand, okay. Matthew says the medevac gig in the Lear will be your first job. You're jumping from being a full-time CFI, CFII, and MEI. Wow, that's awesome, Matthew. That sounds super awesome, Matthew. That this is going to be your first jet job after being a CFI for quite a while there. That's super awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Matthew. I wish you nothing but the best with this awesome new gig. Okay, we're through transition here. Let's set 29er. Whoops. 29er81. That's our altimeter setting at Bozeman. Let's do a approach check here. Altimeters 29er81 set, and cross-check both sides. Let's get our recognition lights on. Let's get our seat belts. No smoking seatbelt sign. No smoking and seatbelt sign on. Pressurization checked. Passenger briefing. Cabin secured. Complete. Circuit breakers checked, right and left. Hydraulic emergency air pressure checked. That looks good. Landing data computed and set. We're going to assume landing speed of 128 knots like last time. Yeah, taking into account, yeah. That's all good there. Fuel balanced, approach briefing. We haven't done that yet, so let's do that real quick. Let me check on the weather here at Bozeman. And let me see, is Bozeman controlled? Indeed it is, right? ATIS is 135.425. Let's go ahead and pick up the weather here at Bozeman.
.8, altimeter 29er81, arriving and departing runways 11, 12. Visual approaches in use. Read back all runway assignments and hold short instructions. Advise on initial contact. You have information Bravo.
Information Bravo today.
Bozeman Yellowstone International Airport. 8 is information Bravo. 0256 Zulu. Wind 350 at 8. Visibility 10.
350 at 8 on the winds.
Scattered. 1000 scattered. Temperature 14. Dew point 8. Altimeter 29er81. Arriving and departing runways 11, 12. Visual approaches in use.
Oh, okay.
Back all runway assignments and hold short instructions.
That's kind of weird.
On initial contact.
Because the winds are out of the north today. Yeah, it's kind of weird that they're landing 1112. I'm going to ask if you can land on 30, but we'll see what happens. Oops, 13,000 actually is where we're supposed to level off, right? Yeah, 13,000, not 12,000. Almost screwed up there by accident. But we'll level off at 13,000. Okay, let me catch up on chat here. Castillo's was saying, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, it's good to have as much testing as possible for sure there. Yag Nation, no worries at all. Thanks for hanging out with us so far. You have a great one, Yag. Thanks for hanging out with us. And have fun there in Thailand. Herthik Pokrel says, due to COVID, there is border sealed, no international domestic flights right now. That is good to hear there, Herthik. That is one way to contain this for sure. That is really good to hear. Lokestar says, you have the feeling that I've been talking to the same controller since departure. Lokestar, why would you have that feeling, right? Does she sound the same? That's one of the limitations of Pilotedge, but it also works just fine, you know. I'm perfectly fine with it. It's one of the limitations of Pilotedge, but on the other hand, it's really nice to have real frequencies that you switch back and forth between, just like in real life. You know, on VATSIM, you're stuck with one frequency for quite a while, you know, depending on what controller is online, right? Or how many controllers are online. Wow, so this is Real Turb North America, by the way. So these turbulence effects that you're seeing are from Real Turb. That looks super awesome. I love these Real Turb turbulence effects. That looks awesome. Okay, let's switch to cinematic camera view there. as we bounce around in the turbulence. Let's see, what else did I miss here? Joe A says, would I consider this a study level aircraft? Joe, I'm trying to figure out a diplomatic way of answering that question. I would consider it a study-ish level. It's definitely not the level of PMDG or FS Labs, right? So, for instance, failures are not modeled in this aircraft, obviously. So it's not on the level of PMDG or FS Labs, but for the price, I'd say it is basically as close to study level as you can get. You know, in my opinion, this is the best Lear-35, or actually just plain Learjet add-on for P3D. I don't know if there's one for X-Plane, but I think it's the best Learjet add-on for P3D on the market right now. So it's not, you know, it's certainly not a PMDG level or an FS Labs level, but it's very, very, very good. You know, I like it a lot. You know, there are some switches, obviously, that do not work in here. Like, for instance, I can't set auto manual there. You know, I can't move the pressurization up and down using the red knob there. But for the most part, you know, most of the switches here work. So it's okay. You know, I like it. I'm going to arm the thrust reversers right now, you know, even though I'm not supposed to do it because I'm going to forget it later. And let's go ahead and get our panel lights on. And we'll leave our floodlights off for now. And we'll continue down here towards Bozeman. Okay, let's see, what else did I miss in chat? Lodestar, absolutely. That's one of the things I love about the controllers on Pilotedge. They do an amazing job considering the immense airspace, you know, areas of airspace that they control.
Contact, Big Sky approach, 118.9.
Big Sky approach 118.907 for Lear-35 Charlie Lima. Okay, 118.907, you know, considering the breadth of airspace that they cover. So this is one controller controlling the airspace all the way from San Francisco up to Seattle, actually up north of Bellingham, Washington, north of Seattle, all the way out east to Denver, and, you know, basically almost to the Great Plains. So, you know, it's an amazing amount of coverage area that this one controller is covering. And so when you think about that, I mean, it's a pretty awesome job of controlling. Especially considering, you know, she's got to keep track of all these frequencies, all these different control centers, their names, etc. She does an amazing job for sure. All these controllers on Pilotedge do an amazing job. Big Sky approach, good evening, Lear 354 Charlie Lima 13000. Castillo's, I think, well, all controllers sound a certain way, right? All controllers sound, oops, actually, correction, I did the wrong frequency there. So 118.9 or 75. I had the wrong frequency. Big Sky approach, good evening, Lear 354 Charlie Lima, correction. Flight 13000.
Number 354 Charlie Lima, Big Sky approach, Bozeman, altimeter 2981, safe approach request.
Altimeter 2981. I'd like to get the visual approach to runway 30 at Bozeman for Lear 354 Charlie Lima.
Report Charlie Lima, confirm ATIS.
I do have Bravo at Bozeman, and I think the ATIS was saying the runways can use 11 and 12, but I'd like to request 30 if possible, please, due to the winds. Lear 354 Charlie Lima.
354 Charlie Lima, roger. Expect visual approach runway 30 to sound Fox pressure maintain 7,000.
Expect the visual 30, pilot's discretion down to 7,000, Lear 354 Charlie Lima, thank you. Okay, down to 7,000. And I'm going to catch up on chat here real quick. Castillo's unfortunately no time for return flight today. But you know, all controllers, especially in the US, have a certain way of talking. They have a certain way of enunciating certain words. So to an extent, you know, they can all start to sound a little bit the same. But that's a good thing, because what you want when you're communicating, especially on busy frequencies, in a high-stress environment like when you're flying, is you want standardization in terms of how controllers sound, in terms of how controllers speak, in terms of how pilots and controllers interact, in terms of how the order in which certain words and certain phraseology comes in when you're communicating. So as a real-world pilot, I'll tell you, standard phraseology, a standard way of speaking and communicating, it's a lifesaver, you know, in more ways than one, as any real pilot will testify to you. So I don't mind, you know, controllers sounding robotic as long as they're standardized, you know, they're using standard phraseology and that sort of thing, which all professional controllers do. So it's a good thing, not a bad thing, that they sound that way. Okay, let's go ahead and start our descent down to 7,000 here. A little bit of a stutter there as I think the scenery starts to load in at Bozeman. There we go. Stutter's gone. And once we get down to about 2,000 feet per minute, once again, I'm going to go ahead and set vertical speed there. That should do it. Let's back off the throttle there just a little bit. And we've done our approach check earlier. Continuing towards Bozeman there. Okay, let's get the landing lights are mounted on the landing gear, obviously, so you're not going to see anything. Right now, all you're going to see is the recognition light, which I got on earlier, once those textures load in. But the landing lights will be visible once the landing gear actually comes down. Okay, let's catch up on chat here, see what I missed. Castillo's, yeah, it should be pretty good for sure. Hithic, I'll certainly look into that. As I mentioned earlier, I'm not the biggest fan of long haul, but yeah, it is what it is. Gregory DeLong says, you never paid attention to that. It is the same controller. Yeah, usually on Pilotedge, within a certain coverage area, you might have at most one or two. If it's a really busy night, maybe 3 or 4 controllers. But typically on Pilotedge, you know, depending on the number of pilots that are online at any one point, you know, all you typically need is just one controller anyway. You know, you don't really need more than that. Because, you know, unlike VATSIM, right, Pilotedge at any one point, you know, maybe at most they have 50 pilots at any one given time. So...
Before Charlie Lima, the airport, 12 o'clock, 19 miles, reporting sight.
354 Charlie Lima is looking. Okay, let's see if we can make out the airport there. I do have the city, the lights of Bozeman up ahead, and I think I've got the airport. Yeah, there it is. Big Sky 354 Charlie Lima has the field in sight.
4 Charlie Lima, clear visual approach, runway 30 and 5 miles out, contact tower.
Cleared the visual approach, runway 30, 5 miles out, we'll contact tower. Lear-ing Charlie Lima. Okay, tower frequency is 118.2. So let's set that back up here. And let's keep an eye on how far out we are. The VOR is pretty much coincident with the airport, so we can keep an eye on our distance to go there to the airport. And airport elevation is 4,473 feet. So we're going to fly a right base here to runway 30. Correction, right downwind to 30. Okay, coming up on 7,000 here. Yeah, totally. She does a great job for sure. All these, as I said, all these Pilotedge controllers do an amazing job controlling, especially considering the immense, you know, airspace that they're covering, right? One of the other amazing things, of course, about Pilotedge, like, so, you know, I mentioned this about in the past, you know, my personal feeling as a real-world tailwheel pilot, right, where I have to use all my senses when I'm flying, is, you know, I personally think that, what do you call it? I personally think that that flight simming, you know, doesn't help you develop real physical skills in flying, right? In terms of hand-eye coordination, that sort of thing. You know, I personally think that it's more useful for things like developing your radio communication skills, developing. I'm going to slow down here to 200 knots as we enter the Class Delta here. Or is it Class Delta? Not sure. It might be Class Charlie around Bozeman. Okay, coming up on 5 miles here. I'm going to go ahead and... Actually, let's leave the autopilot on for now. Slow down to about 200 knots. Landing lights are on. Let's get the ignition on for now so I don't forget later, because it's going to be pretty busy for me as I come up on the approach here. And we're coming up on 5 miles here out, so let's go ahead and disconnect the autopilot. Let's go ahead and disconnect all the flight director modes there. Bozeman Tower, good evening. Lear-35 Charlie Lima. 5 miles to the west. We're inbound to land, runway 30, Bozeman.
Tower 354 Charlie Lima, Bozeman Tower, runway 30, clear to land.
Runway 30, clear to land at 354 Charlie. Okay, we've been clear to land. Let's go ahead and fly a right downwind here to 30. There's the runway. Love the airport there, all lit up here as the sun sets. It's looking nice. And I'm going to catch up on chat here once we're Jeffrey, I'm gonna chime in on that as soon as we get down. I'm gonna chime in on that. But let me just say my sympathies lie with your point of view on this. My sympathies certainly lie with what you just said, but I'm going to chime in once I have a time to read your comment in detail. Okay, let me put my iPad away, and I'll focus here on the landing. Okay, gear coming down. And we'll focus on landing the aircraft here. Let's get that windshield heat off. We don't need that anymore. Whoops. Flaps coming out at 8 degrees. We'll fly a bit of an extended downwind here before we turn base. Approach speed is going to be about 130 knots. We're still a little high here, obviously, so we're going to lose a little bit more altitude. Jeffrey Burner, that's correct. Yeah, it's the Orbx Bozeman. But I am going to chime in on the point that you made, because I think it's worth discussing for sure. I don't disagree with what you just said. So let me put it that way. Let's go flaps 20. We'll go ahead and turn base here. Actually, we'll probably keep the turn going all the way around to final. Let's go through a landing checklist here. Gear down, 3 green. Whoops. Make sure that stall horn doesn't go off. That's never a good thing. Let's keep the turn going all the way around to final here. Did we overshoot? I think we might have. Overshot just a little bit. Yeah, and we're still a little low too. That's fine. Yeah, I sensed I was getting kind of low there. But that's fine. Okay, let's do our landing checklist. Air ignition on. Flaps full, flaps 40. Thrust reversers armed. I've got the spoiler switch here ready to go, and getting back on glide path there. Overshot a little badly there. It's fine. Landing lights are on. Landing checklist is complete. Boy, I'm really not the biggest fan of those double callouts there from the two GTN 1050 units. Both of them are calling out 500 at once. Okay. And we do have a bit of a crosswind there from the right. That's fine. Accounting for it. Doing okay. Not the most stable approach, but we're doing okay so far. There we go, touchdown. Reversers, spoilers. 80 knots. Reverser's disengaged. And we're probably going to miss that taxiway there. That's fine. Spoilers retracted. We'll take the next taxiway when we can. Okay, let me pull up my airport map here on my iPad. Let's make sure we get the steering on. And we'll taxi off here to the left. Alright, welcome to Bozeman, Montana, folks. That wasn't the most stable approach, but I think the landing works out just fine. It's a little hard judging the flare in this aircraft because obviously there's no radio callouts, and especially when you're landing on a runway with that's relatively wide, that can be a little difficult. Okay, anyway, we're down to the ground. We're in taxiway Alpha here. Let's go ahead and switch to ground. Ground is 121.8. Let's go ahead and get those air ignition switches off. Don't want that annoying buzz anymore from the ignition, from the igniters. And thrust reversers off. Let's make sure we're still squawking Mo Charlie there. That's good. Now let's get those landing lights back to taxi. And strobes coming off. Recognition lights coming off as well. We'll get that back on once we're ready to do some replays. Let me contact Bozeman ground here. Bozeman ground, Lear-35 Charlie Lima. We've exited 30 on Alpha, looking for taxi to the GA ramp.
For Charlie Lima, taxi to parking via Alpha and have a wonderful evening.
Departing via Alpha, you have a great night as well, Lear-354 Charlie. Thank you. Okay, departing via Alpha. Rice Cooker 2000, happy Canada Day to you. Rice Cooker 2000, I think you're from Vancouver, if I'm not mistaken, right? The Vancouver area. But that's awesome. Happy Canada Day to you. I hope you had a fantastic July the 1st. And hopefully your Canada Day up in Canada was way better than most of our 4th of Julys are going to be here in the States. But hopefully you had a good one. And I'm going to catch up on chat here in a second, once I've got some time here. Doesn't look like I missed a ton, actually. Gregory DeLong, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Do you mean the stars? Or do you see some UFOs somewhere? I'm not sure what you're referring to. Tristan Albers, Tristan, look in the description of my video. It's Orbx Felsfield. That's my Spokane scenery. There isn't a good Spokane International Airport scenery, but there's a good scenery for Spokane Felsfield, which is a GA airport to the east of Spokane International and east of the city of Spokane itself. Jeffrey Brenner, yeah, so I wanted to get back to this. Jeffrey Brenner was saying, great to see such a high degree of decorum and emphasis on phraseology on both sides of the mic. Phraseology is so key. Yeah, totally agree. And that's one of the nice things about Pilotedge, is they actually work on ensuring that you as a pilot, you know, even within the sim, right, are developing good phraseology and, you know, good adherence to procedure and learning how to read and interpret charts and that sort of thing, which is a very, very useful skill, you know, to have out of flight sim. You know, one of the things I think is useful is comms, like I said earlier, but another thing that's really, really useful is the ability to read and interpret instrument charts on the fly. No pun, well, pun intended, obviously. If you think about it, right, in real life, if you're instrument flying, if you're flying on instruments, and but if you think about it, right, being in the cockpit of a real airplane, especially in real IMC, you know, interpreting an unfamiliar instrument approach procedure and an unfamiliar, like a chart for an unfamiliar procedure, can be a very stressful thing indeed, you know, in real life, in real IMC. And what Pilotedge, and actually just flight simming in general, loves you the opportunity to do is, you know, do that sort of interpretation in sim. So, you know, I always say there's no harm in flight simming in finding the scariest instrument procedure you can find for an airport you're flying into and briefing, you know, that plate in full. that's a really, really good skill to use flight sim to help you, develop those kinds of skills. So those are my two big things, I think, for me at least, that I think real-world pilots can take out of flight simming. Is one is, radio and comms, and the other is, interpreting, briefing instrument procedures. So at least that's what I think, But again, this is coming from the perspective of somebody who flies small aircraft in real life, like a tailwheel pilot. I don't know. Maybe if you're flying the FS Labs A320 and you're a real-world Airbus pilot, the Labs feels real enough with the right controllers, right? I don't know. But just coming from the perspective of a small, like a tailwheel pilot, small GA pilot, and a glider pilot, I think flight simming is less useful for developing physical skills of flying and more useful for more of these, radio comms type skills and, instrument, interpreting instrument procedures, that sort of thing. That's my view, at least. Franklin Machado, welcome on board. Hope you're doing well there, Franklin. Thanks for subscribing. Thank you for the high-speed flyby. Welcome on board. And Franklin happens to share the same last name as a very, very well-known individual, of course, to any real-world pilot. The name Rod Machado is, of course, legendary among pilots, and for even for flight simmers of a certain age. If you had, I think the original FS 2000 or something, wasn't Rod Machado, one of the quote-unquote instructors for some of the original Microsoft Flight Simulator tutorials, right, for how to operate an airplane? I don't know. But anyway, Rod Machado's name is certainly legendary in the aviation community. So I'm kind of curious if there's any sort of connection there at all between your last name there, Franklin, and the Rod Machado himself. Just curious. But welcome on board. Will Dewey, good morning to you. Hope you're doing well there, Will. Welcome on board. Hope you're doing well. Jeffrey, coming back to your point, I'm sorry, I didn't read the rest of it, but you were saying, yes, but radio comms and some FS networks approaches a boys club. You don't want to start a flame fest here, but if you hear Roger that on VATSIM again, you'll lose it. Yeah, that's one of the things, right, Jeffrey? There's a lot of, very loose, I'm trying to phrase this diplomatically. Obviously VATSIM, right, has the benefit of being an all-volunteer network. And there's certainly so much, value to that in terms of bringing folks into, young folks especially, into flying and having them develop an interest in flying and flying in a group type environment. On the other hand, obviously, the flip side of that is exactly what you said. There's very loose adherence sometimes to real-world phraseology and things like that, which is why, I love networks like Pilotedge. WATSIM can be kind of notorious for, folks that are a little bit, that are not necessarily always adhering to real-world procedures and communications. I'm gonna disconnect here from Pilotedge because we don't need to be connected to Pilotedge anymore. Let's check out some replays here, and let me check on the time here. It's just past 9 here, so you know what? I've got a few more minutes here that I can spend with you fine folks chatting and also checking out some replays of that awful approach and landing that we just had. This is one of the challenges of doing a visual approach in flight sim where, I don't have Trike IR, so I couldn't quite see, how far away I was from the run, I couldn't quite see exactly how I was aligned with the runway, so I ended up like, way overshooting my turn to final there, which was unfortunate. But hey, that was lessons learned. Mistakes are made, lessons are learned. That's the way it should be with flight sim. But getting back on glide path there, let's see how good or bad that landing was. Let me catch up on chat. Jeffrey Benner, yes indeed, it is Orbx Bozeman. And Gregory Long, I'm still not sure what you're referring to with the 3 white dots. They were probably stars, is my guess. That's my guess of what they were. Tristan Alberts was saying, I thought it was Yeah, no, it wasn't, Kristen. It was Phelps Field, a small GA airport in Spokane. Phelps Field actually used to be Spokane's primary airport until the new Spokane International opened up. But you know, this was way back in like the 50s or 60s, I think. Okay, let's see how we did here. Boy, I love the scenery though. It looks super awesome. Started my flare a little early, but you know what? We did okay. I kind of plunked it down a little bit there, but I'm okay with that. I started my flare a little high. That was the issue there. It's kind of hard in this aircraft judging your flare, especially when you have a kind of wider runway like this. So I was going off the side picture that I had when I took off from Spokane Phelps Field, which had a much narrower runway. And so I made the mistake of looking for that same side picture here when I started my flare. And obviously I shouldn't have done that. What I should have done was taken the time to study the actual runway width before we landed here. That way I would have known to start my flare a little later. So that was my bad there. Let's take a look at a tower view here. Let's bring it back just a little bit. There we go. And let's do some tower view action there. But Will Dewey, super early in the morning for you, I'm guessing, Will. Welcome on board. I hope you're doing well there, Will. Thanks for hanging out with us. Will says, it's only 5 a.m. here. Well, what's a 5 a.m. stream between friends, right? Welcome on board, Will. Thanks for hanging out with us. I hope you're doing well. Gregory Lalong, I'm sorry about that, Gregory. I'm not quite sure when that happened. Nicholas says, Nicholas Gach says 12:05 a.m. on the East Coast. Well, welcome on board, Nicholas. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for staying up super late to hang out with us. And all of you fine folks that hung around for the stream, super awesome of you. Thanks for hanging out with us on this Wednesday, July the 1st, Canada Day in Canada. And happy Canada Day to all our Canadians on chat, like Potato Rewind or Rice Cooker 2000 rather. Gregory DeLong says, yeah, it's like 9:00 something, like 9:10 p.m. Lokestar says, you do have track IR, you can never get used to it. Yeah, I don't like the idea of having this really, this thing on my head, right? And plus I probably have to wear a ball cap or something, or find a way to hook it to my headset. So I'm not the biggest fan of doing that, but honestly there's obviously some benefits to track IR. Like I probably would have made that turn to final a little better, right, if I had track IR. But that's one of the issues there. Okay, with not having track IR. Let's bring it back a little bit here. Let's do a Ving view here. Ooh, this view actually looks pretty nice. Let's take a look at this view. That's a pretty sweet view. I'm going to take a look at that in the recap there, Gregory, later. I'll certainly look at that and see what that was. Will Dewey says, happy to wake up at 5 if there's a DJ stream going on. How come the weekday stream? So, Will, we actually did a stream last week too. So I was thinking about doing a midweek stream, because I have a little bit more time this week, and so I figured I'd do a weeknight stream for once. My idea was I was going to fly on Pilotedge tonight anyway, in the Lear-35, and so I figured as opposed to just kind of flying by myself, why not share a flight with all you fine folks that wanted to tune in tonight. So thanks you all for hanging out. Hope you enjoyed it so far. Hope you enjoyed the terrible approach and just the plonked landing there. Basically the aircraft just lost all lift and just dropped the last couple of feet. But hey, what can you do? I don't know if Matthew Dickinson, the IRL Lear-35 pilot, is going for his type rating at the moment. Watch that landing, but that wasn't the most impressive landing by any stretch of the imagination. What did I want to do? I wanted to do a quick wing view as well. And by the way, let me change the time here in stream, the time here in the sim, so that you all can see. It's just going to go dark for a second while I access the menu system. Give me a second. I just wanted to roll back the time in sim here a little bit so that you guys can take a look at some of this fantastic photo scenery. So this is Orbx's Bozeman scenery, right? It looks fantastic in my view. Orbx always does a pretty fantastic job, especially with some of these little regional airports sprinkled around the country and around the world, actually. But they always do a fantastic job with these little regional airports. Some really nice photoreal scenery there for the surrounding mountains. That looks awesome. That really, really looks good. Bringing you along, I'm not sure why Streamlabs deleted your message. Sorry about that, Gregory, but we'll see us, Gregory. Thanks for hanging out with us. You take care. Thank you for hanging out with us for sure. So, Will, I'm not sure if I fully answered your question, but yeah, I was thinking about just flying online tonight anyway, and I figured, as opposed to doing it by myself on Pilotedge, I just hit the Go Live button on YouTube, and if folks wanted to hang out and watch the stream, they're more than welcome to, and it'd be super fun to have people join in on our little flight from Spokane to Bozeman tonight. And last week, by the way, we did a flight from Seattle to Spokane and in the Lear-35, so this is just kind of a continuation of that flight from last weekend, or last week, sorry, last Thursday. And next week, if I have time midweek, what I'll probably do is continue our streak of Lear-35 streams, and we'll continue onward from Bozeman to someplace else in the western U.S. on Pilotedge. In fact, if anybody has some recommendations or some thoughts or requests for a small little mountain airport to land at somewhere in the western half of the United States that we can fly the Lear from Spokane to, or from Bozeman to, feel free to drop that in chat. There we go. Jeffrey Binner, thanks for hanging out with us. We'll look forward to catching you next time. You're welcome to come back anytime, my friend. Thanks for hanging out with us and for chiming in with that incredibly prescient thoughts there on the value of ATC comms and the nature of VATSIM, etc. But thanks for hanging out with us. Have a great rest of your day wherever in the world you're tuning in from. What did I want to do? I wanted to do another replay here. Let's zoom it back a little bit, and we'll probably switch some cinematic camera views. And we'll do one last replay or something here to close out the stream. But actually, before I do that, there's one thing I wanted to do very quickly. Lokestar, if you're still with us, you were asking about the Majestic Q400, Lokestar. Let me do something here real quick. Let me share my desktop. Let me pull up my Majestic control panel, and I'll show you how to set up the... Lokestar, I'm going to show you how to set up the... what do you call it? The aileron axis as your axis to use for the steering tiller on your Majestic Q400. So this is the the Majestic control panel, right? I'm sure you've seen this. Here's shared cockpit, which we want to use at some point, right? Together, that'd be super awesome. But if you go to flight controls, you see where it says steering control mode. There's mouse only, ailerons plus mouse, spoiler axis. Just click on ailerons plus mouse. That should be an option, hopefully, in your control panel. But if you click on that there, Lokestar, that should give you the option of having tiller control with the ailerons when the speed is less than 40 knots. So what's going to happen, right, is when you do your flight controls check, if you watch my most recent video in the Q400, I did a video featuring a destination in Iceland, I think. And I was talking a little bit about this. When you're doing your flight controls check for your before taxi checklist, what you're going to find out is that the yoke doesn't move. The ailerons don't move. That's because if you have the steering tiller set to ailerons plus mouse, the ailerons can only, the ailerons axis, whatever that axis is, can only control your steering tiller. But once you get past 40 knots, that switches back automatically to the ailerons axis. And so you don't have to worry about switching that on and off. That automatically does that for you once you hit 40 knots in the airplane. So that's what you want to do. You want to click on, go to the Majestic control panel, go to flight controls, and click on ailerons plus mouse. Click on apply. If you've got the aircraft loaded, you're just going to have to reload the aircraft in the sim for the changes to activate, and then you can make sure that the correct axis is moving that steering tiller. So that's how you do that. So yeah, hopefully you got that Lokestar. Hopefully that helps you out. So let me go ahead and close that off. And so there is that fantastic airport once again. I love the night lighting here. You can see the parking lot there is fully lit up. That looks pretty awesome. Let me go into this view here so we can zoom in. That looks super awesome, doesn't it? You've got, I've got dynamic lighting from Inabuilds, I think. So it's got dynamic lighting on the ramp. I've got GSX, you know, so jetways, and I've got this dynamic lighting for the parking lot as well. That looks pretty awesome. This scenery is really, really good. Once you've got it kitted out with with Inabuilds dynamic lighting and GSX jetways, etc. Looks pretty good. Okay, let's switch to cinematic camera views here. I5 Shrestha, welcome on board. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for hanging out with us today. And Loakstar, awesome. Absolutely. Will Dewey was saying, you suppose this extra stream shows the channel growth. Yeah, we are moving towards that number for sure there, Will. It's taking a while to get to that number. We were a little faster getting to 1K and a lot faster getting to 2K. A bit slower getting to 3K and a lot slower getting towards 4K. But as I've mentioned before, you know, for me it's less about the numbers and more about whether we get some folks that, like you and Loakstar and other folks that you've seen in stream today that seem to enjoy the content and seem to enjoy being on here. So that's far more important to me. You know, as I've said before, I actually prefer it, you know, like on nights like tonight when we have fewer people on. That way I can spend a bit more time getting to know people and talk to people and kind of find out their interests and things like that. But it was super awesome. We had a IRL Lear-35 pilot on chat tonight who was working on his type rating towards becoming a medevac pilot in the Lear-35, and that was pretty cool to have him on. So we always get some nice, interesting folks in stream every once in a while. Okay, folks, this view is super awesome. I like this super steep turn. It looks steep. It's not actually that steep. I was doing a 30-degree bank, but that looks super cool, doesn't it, in cinematic camera views? But it's coming up on 9:30 here. I am probably going to have to call it a night, folks. But thank you all so much for hanging out. Will, thank you so much for coming, for waking up super early in the morning and chiming in. It's always nice to have you on, my friend. Oxalis, Joshua, welcome on board. Hope you're doing well. I'm going to have to sign off, unfortunately. Nicholas Gack, Joe A. Joe, thanks so much again for chiming in and reminding me once again about Captain Mac's awesome channel for sure. Super awesome to have you on. Let me, whoops, oh, let me go back to that window. Prepare 3D streaming. Okay, let me back up just a little bit here. We'll go back to cinematic camera views. Oxalis, welcome. Unfortunately, I can't answer your question because I've got to get going here. But hopefully, if you catch you on a future stream, we might be able to help you out. Loakstar says, funny you mentioned about the channel growth. You were doing a little bit of retro. Was looking at my older video to Antarctica. Yeah, that was a very popular video for sure there, Loakstar. Thanks there, Will. I much appreciate the very kind words. Oxalis, unfortunately, I can't answer your question. I wish I could, but I got to get going here, as well as, you know, I think I've got to end my stream because we've been going for a while, and I think folks in chat probably need to get going as well. But all of you fine folks who hung out this evening, thank you so much. It was super awesome having you hang out today. This was a lot of fun, despite the botched approach and relatively okay landing. It was still a lot of fun tonight. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for joining us again in another kind of impromptu late night stream. I probably will have another video coming out at some point towards the end of this week, either tomorrow evening or perhaps Friday evening sometime, depending on when I can work on editing the video and completing it. But even if you don't get a video out, we'll probably definitely have a stream on Sunday. It is the 4th of July weekend, but I am planning a stream on Sunday because I'm staying in town this weekend. So we'll probably do a flight in X-Plane 11 featuring some destinations in the eastern U.S. And one of the FlyJ Sim aircraft, either the 737 or 727. But we'll figure that out. But in any case, hopefully we'll catch you in our next live stream. I want to thank you all again for hanging out today. It was super fun for sure. You all stay safe, stay healthy, of course. Be smart in the environment that we live in. Wear a mask when you go out, etc. Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you all so much for hanging out. Okay, you take care. Bye-bye. We'll catch you later. Have a great night, great morning, great afternoon, great evening, wherever the world you're tuning in from. And we'll catch you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
$500.